Okay, it is December 2015. We are here at the village of Dogpatch USA, former theme park in Newton County, Arkansas that operated from 1968 to 1993 before it was closed because of financial reasons. We've entered off the former service road that led into the park near the Trout Hatchery area. Trout Hatchery was actually here and in business as a tourist attraction before Dogpatch was built and opened. Mill Creek runs through Dogpatch through the middle of town, and also a stream from what's called Bluff Springs also enters the park here in the Trout Hatchery area. When the park opened and during its entire run, this pond and the entire stream was filled with rainbow trout that were produced here at the Trout Hatchery, and there were feeder stands along the boundary here where people could feed the fish, and also further down was a trout pond where you could actually pay to fish for the trout and have them cleaned and cooked for you at the Fish House restaurant. When Dogpatch was in operation, guests would park at the top of the hill and enter into the park by using the funiculator tram, decliner incliner rail system that led down into the park. It's the only ride, if you will, that remains in Dogpatch today. You could rent strollers and lockers at this facility near the entrance to the park. This was the administrative office building near the entrance to the park. The offices were in the right hand side, and there was a restaurant here on the left called the Fish House restaurant. This is one of the covered bridges across Mill Creek where you could sit and relax and take in the beautiful scenery that existed at this time. As you can tell, the park is quite dilapidated and overgrown with brush and debris at this time. Although some cleanup work has been done, there's still a lot left to do. Now this is where the trout pond was located, where you could fish for rainbow trout. It's obvious that some excavation and dredging work has taken place. I see mounds of dirt that have been dug from the pond. I know one of the goals of the new owner was to restore the trout hatchery and the trout pond, so hopefully that will get accomplished. This is also where a restaurant was located at, where you could purchase fish or get the fish cleaned and cooked, prepared, that you had caught in the trout pond. There's a bridge. It sits over the Mill Creek, and there's a bridge that crosses over to the town square. We're coming out to the area of the town square of Dogpatch. This was the heart of the theme park, where the craftsmen and merchants were located. Also, most of the characters from the Little Abner comic strip wandered in this area, entertaining guests, doing little sketches. The bones, if you will, of most of these structures appear to be at least semi-solid, and restoration could take place. This building here is Cornbitchen Hall. It was the main stage, the main building of the town square. They're having a sort of a Christmas craft fair here today, but there's very few people here.
First time I saw the park is when I walked through there, the weeds were all about this tall.
In the center area here where the slab is at, that's where the very large statue of Jubilation T. Cornwall, the fictional general in the Dogpatch playbook. His statue stood there, but it's been removed years ago. This was the train station depot for the Dogpatch miniature train called the West Pork Chop Special. There were 2 locomotives, but normally only one was in use at a time. Nothing of that ride remains in the park today other than the depot station and some of the tracks. One of my favorite buildings in the town square has always been the Honey House, which we're looking at now. They used to have a live bee colony inside behind glass that you could sit and watch. Also lots of candies and that type of thing. 3 of the buildings in the Dogpatch Square burned about 10 months ago, most likely due to arson. They sat in this location. You can see the debris and the remains. Looking across the lake, or the mill pond, if you will, from the town square, you can see the remains of the paddle boat loading station for the Wolf Island paddle boat ride. And also the tower that remains of the Wild Water Rampage slide. Some concession buildings. And at the very end you can see the grist mill circa 1843, I believe, and the bridge that goes across the mill pond. There's a dam there. We have some log cabins here that serve for the homes for the fictional Dogpatch characters. These were actual log cabins of the Ozarks that were purchased, disassembled, brought here, and reassembled when the park opened. Here we have a closer look of the dam that forms the lake, or the mill pond, if you will. You can see it's in general state of disrepair, and there are a lot of debris lodged up against it on the lake side. Needs to be cleared. We have a closer look here at the Peter Bella grist mill, circa 1840s. This was a working grist mill, and it was already on site when Dogpatch was built. It was completely restored and made operational at that time. However, again, it has fallen into total disrepair, and take quite a bit of effort to restore it. There was some talk of the owner placing a restaurant in this building after restoration. Now looking back at the town square area, we're standing on the dam that forms the mill pond. You can see several vehicles, and when Dogpatch was open, for most of its years there were no vehicles allowed down in the park. It was pedestrian traffic only, so they're sort of out of place. This is another closer view of the water slide ride and the associated buildings. And a view from a different angle of the grist mill. We're going to walk inside and look out the window back towards the dam so we can see the waterfall better. This is a rather nice view of the waterfall created by the dam to the mill pond. Back in its heyday it was pristine. Now not so much, but it's still a beautiful sight. This is a beautiful location if it were completely cleaned up and restored. This is the swinging bridge, one of the bridges across Mill Creek. It's just down from the grist mill and certainly in a bad state of repair, so I don't think we'll try to cross it. As a matter of fact, there's cones up warning people not to try, so probably wouldn't be safe. Here we have the remains of the kiddie train ride. I think it was called the Old 99. There's the depot building, if you will. Some of the track still remains. We're going to walk across the track. There's a little wooden bridge here that the kiddie train ride crossed. We're going to try to walk across it. There's another pedestrian bridge ahead that you can see. Probably isn't safe to cross either. This is not too bad. It seems pretty sound. This is the other pedestrian crossing on Mill Creek. It looks even worse than the swinging bridge, so I'm not going to attempt to step out on it. It leads directly across to the area where the Brain Rattler ride was at, the antique car rides, the helicopter ride, and the church, and some other things. We'll walk around to those later. We're now on the pathway that leads down to the loading station where the old log boat ride was at. Loading station itself is collapsed in on itself. I see at least some of the log boats are still underneath, half submerged in the water. There were two log boats that ran from here, ran back up the creek to the grist mill, turned around and came back here. And there were various scenes and attractions along the banks on either side that you could watch for. Off in the distance there, that's the railroad trestle for the West Poke Chop Special. Crossed over the canyon here, went through a tunnel on the other side, made a loop and came back. We'll walk over to the tunnel here in a little bit. Here we have another view of the railroad trestle, and the dam helps form Marble Falls. In Dogpatch lore, the canyon below is called the Bottomless Canyon. Water is kind of a pretty bluish green color today. I've seen it when it's very muddy before after a heavy rain. Okay, we've arrived here at the tunnel on the railroad line. We're not going to walk through it. I have walked through it before. It's still very sturdy and sound. Nothing wrong with it. Tracks are in good condition through the tunnel, not so much outside. But the train goes through the tunnel, made a loop, then came back out the same way and crossed back over the trestle again. Now this little shack here was known as the Shady Acres Retirement Home, and as the train went by you could see Grandma asleep in bed, and Grandpa was out in the tub here, the wooden tub in front, taking a bath. An old stove inside. Pretty much fallen in now. Okay, we made it to the far side of the railroad trestle by walking around on the road. I have walked across the trestle in the past to get to the other side. I'm not going to try to do that today. I don't believe they want you to. But from this angle you get an excellent view of the dam that creates the waterfall here. Of course, in the background, as I said, is the dilapidated loading station from the log boat ride. Down to the Bottomless Canyon below. Okay, up ahead and on top of the hill is where the Dogpatch Jamboree was located, and also the Skunk Works factory. A couple of rides up there also, so we're going to walk up there next. Okay, this is where the Dogpatch Jamboree was, in this building here, what's left of it. Over to the left here is the Skunk Works factory attraction. We'll take a closer look at that in just a moment, but first I see that the collapsed remains of the buckboard wagon, or might have even been the stagecoach, are here. I know that in the early days of Dogpatch there was a stagecoach ride in the park. I don't believe it lasted too many years, but this has obviously been here for a very long time. There's a pretty good sized tree that's grown up through the middle of the debris. And this is the Skunk Works soap factory. I believe the idea was they used skunk oil somehow to make soap in Dogpatch. There's various contraptions inside that would simulate a factory. I'm not sure what this building was, but I know in the upstairs portion there are a number of costumes and clothing scattered on the floor. Leads me to believe it was some kind of building for the employees, change out area or something like that. I believe this is where the Ferris wheel ride was at. At least it appears to be from the pictures that I've seen before. The monstrous mushroom ride sat in this location here. And then over here, this is where the scrambler ride was at. Lots and lots of debris. Here's another view of the town square looking across the mill pond from the other side. Paddle boat loading station again. Right, now this large building, that's the back side of Convention Hall, which is the main building in the town square. And I'm very pleased to see that since my last visit, they have begun placing plywood around the exterior of the building to enclose it. It was open to the elements, so apparently they are serious about doing at least some renovation work to that building. And it looks like there's plastic in place over the former windows at the honey house. And I don't believe that was in place either the last time that I was here.